Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome back to another episode, and in today's episode we're going to be trying something a little different, but first, maybe a little bit of a newer setup. Back in Florida, and I finally got a setup within my room here at Florida, so I actually wanted to try something different. As you guys can notice, instead of seeing me face up like really close to the camera, instead I managed to get a little tripod that ultimately holds up the camera, and I have like a downcast view, like the camera's upwards a little bit, pointing down, so you can see my laptop, you can see my my microphone, and I can actually see myself right here, and just be able to see like everything in the camera frame, light, Xbox, all that stuff. So this is a little bit of a newer setup, but this is a setup you're going to see for the majority of this season, so be prepared. I'm actually very excited to do this. I like the view. I just like how it looks. Anyways, let's get to today's episode. So I want to first pose this question to you. When people say Brock Purdy is a game manager, do you think it's used more as an insult, or is it more just how his playstyle resonates? Because oftentimes when you look onto the media, they're talking about the game manager on why he doesn't deserve to be an elite level quarterback, which to me is just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of not calling him elite, since he is such a big winner in his 2 seasons, even getting to the Super Bowl. He lost the Super Bowl, but still got to the Super Bowl anyways. Better than 30 other quarterbacks this season to get there. So it got me thinking. When you think about a game manager and you think about a game changer, how do you define them, and what quarterbacks hold that feature? And better yet, how good are they at being a game manager or a game changer, depending on what they are? So this is our first episode doing a tier list. We're going to look through all 32 NFL teams and their starting quarterbacks, not necessarily this season, but who would naturally be their starting quarterback going forward into next season, barring the draft. Obviously, we don't have anything with the draft just yet, so we're going to just use the 32 quarterbacks that are on the roster right now, who I think will be starting next season, forgetting just everything else. And I have to say, there's a lot of interesting components that go into this. So we're going to get into the episode, and then I'm going to first explain what is a game manager and what is a game changer from my perspective, and then we'll get on with the rest of the tier list. So let's get started. As you can see, we're in the tier list maker now, and we have all 32 NFL teams. Before we get started, like I said, let's explain the difference between a game managing quarterback and a game changing quarterback. So let's start with the game manager. When I think about the game manager is not the best player on that offense, is not even close to being top 3 on the offense. What their job is they're not going to make the outstanding plays, the bombs, the super athletic runs. They're not going to do that stuff. What they are going to do is not turn the ball over. They are not going to make poor mistakes. They are going to manage time correctly, but most importantly, get all their guys involved and let their star players go to work. That's why a lot of people look at Brock Purdy with the game managing sense. But what I think about Brock Purdy is that he just fits his role correctly. He doesn't do too much, but he doesn't do a lot of bad things either, which is why he's winning a lot of football games. And then we look at the contrary. We think about the game changer. The game changer is the best player on that offense, the quarterback. So when I think about a game changer, obviously the first thing that comes to mind, Patrick Mahomes. Somebody who is going to make the big plays, the big runs, the 40-yard bombs, the 20-yard dashes, who is going to do a lot. And he's going to statistically look like the best player day in, day out. Maybe not at a QBR level, but yards, touchdowns, rushing yards. Basically, he's going to be the heart and soul of that offense. But the downside of being a game changer is, as much as you have upside, you also have a lot of downside, the turnovers. Think about Josh Allen or 2022 Dak Prescott. Somebody who, because he takes so many risks, there's a lot of good that comes out of it. There's a lot of bad that comes out of it. So when I think about a game-changing quarterback, hot and cold. When I think about a game-managing quarterback, they are lukewarm. and they are a very average, consistent quarterback versus, of course, the game changer, which is either extremely hot and extremely great or extremely cold and looking terrible. So now that you have the idea down, a few components I want to add is an offense that has a game changing quarterback generally doesn't have a lot of great targets, but they do have some. A game managing quarterback is normally on a pretty loaded offense. Now, that's not the case on every single team, and we'll talk about each team as we go along, but that's kind of where I see the best fit for those quarterbacks. Okay, I don't know how great of an explanation that is, but I gave as best as I could. Now, we're going to go to all 32 quarterbacks. So, let's get started, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. So, of course, Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a dual threat quarterback. He is good in the pass game. Well, I wouldn't say too great in the pass game, but he's also great with his legs. And because of that dynamic, to me, he is a game changing quarterback from a skills perspective. However, his offense is not that great. But then again, like I said, a lot of game changing quarterbacks are on offenses that are not fully loaded. So you also have to take into account that as well. The thing about Kyler Murray is that he is very talented. He's very special, but the problem is he's not much of a winner. When he was having his undefeated season, they ended that season off cold with an early loss to the Rams, who would go on to win the Super Bowl. So when I think about Kyler Murray and throughout his career, because that's what we're going to do with each quarterback throughout their entire career, even if they had short careers, what I've seen, that sample size is how I'm going to be grading them. With Kyler Murray, I think he's great, but as a games changing quarterback, he is C tier in my opinion. He just hasn't proven a lot. He is undersized, so there is that problem. But at the same time, Kyler Murray is super talented, but he is just not hitting the postseason. When he does, they're out in like minutes, seconds. That's how I felt about that Rams game. So yeah, Kyler Murray's at C. Next up, we have Desmond Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, of course, Ridder had one near full season. It wasn't really a full season, and then he played a little bit in 2022. Hasn't shown much. To me, he is a game-changing quarterback because of his skill set and because I have that sample size of him at Cincinnati. He does not strike me as like a game manager, but he could to a lot of people because you got Bijan Robinson, you got Kyle Pitts, you got Drake London, you got those players. So he has a loaded offense, but he has game-changing qualities. But right now, that sample size, he has not proven to be great. He has shown that he can win games. I mean, at one point the Falcons were leading in the NFC South for a bit, so yeah, he's not terrible, but because he hasn't impressed me, he's definitely lower than Kyler Murray. He's D tier in my opinion. And before I continue, I need to create. Next up, we have Lamar Jackson, the MVP of this season. Lamar Jackson, without question, is a game changing quarterback. He is super mobile, one of the best dual threats in the game, and he's a two-time MVP throughout his career, and he got the Ravens to the AFC Championship game. He is Mr. Everything for Baltimore because Baltimore for a long time did not put good weapons around him. This is probably his best core he's ever had, adding Zay Flowers, adding Odell Beckham Jr. So he definitely has the tools to be one of the greatest game changing quarterbacks out there. And I think he's super high. He's an A tier because he doesn't necessarily get it done in the postseason as a game changing quarterback is meant to be. And because he's fallen short many times, he stays at A. He is still super talented. There's no question about it. But A tier is where he's at. My voice is going to go out. Next up, we have Josh Allen. Ooh, this is the definition of a game changing quarterback that is super hot or super cold, and it just depends on what time it is, really. Josh Allen is one of the best statistical quarterbacks in the league, and when you see him play, undoubtedly, he is super dynamic. Whether he is passing to Stephon Diggs, to Gabriel Davis, to his new weapons in Dalton Kincaid, or if he's just straight up running, he is a bulldozer. He is tough to take down. He, to me, is an A tier. There's two things that keep him out of S tier. One, postseason success is not that great, and two, he does have a lot of turnovers. But when this guy is at his best, he's one of the deadliest quarterbacks in the league. And that is just without question. He is an A tier quarterback. As a matter of fact, Even though he doesn't have an MVP and Lamar Jackson has two, I gotta give him the edge over Lamar just because I think he's just much more dynamic than Lamar Jackson is. Even on the run game, I just think it's tough to take him down. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers, and that is Bryce Young. Bryce Young is our first game managing quarterback because he is not somebody who is really running that offense as great as he should. He doesn't really show that skill set. I know it's just his first year, and at Alabama he was amazing, but the Panthers' offense is not that bad. I think they have some good weapons, but Bryce Young has been very disappointing this season. I thought he was going to be the best rookie quarterback and even a fantasy draft pick. He has not hit that level. As a matter of fact, he's probably one of the lowest. He's actually going to be an F tier. I know it's his first season, but his first season in the league was F tier quality. And I know there's a lot more to go up, but I don't know. Was not impressed. Bryce Young, he looked bad. Let's be honest. Next up, we have Justin Fields. And man, I feel bad for Fields. He is not in the great offseason position as he should be. Chances of him being traded from the Bears are very likely. But there's a chance he might stay. It's all too weird right now. If you're a Bears fan, you're going through it right now. Justin Fields to me is definitely a game changer. I mean, you have that one season he rushed for 1,000 yards. He has not been handled on the Chicago Bears as he should have been. I think that he's been coached incorrectly, and his potential has not reached the point it should. He's super talented, but just not on the right team. Because of that, he's above Kyler Murray in my opinion, but he's C tier. He hasn't just reached up higher just yet. He's close. Give him a better team or give him a better coaching scheme, he might actually be a top 10 quarterback. But as of it is right now, I don't have a lot of faith in Justin Fields, especially since he's on the Bears. Next up, we got Joe Burrow, the only man who I can trust to stop Patrick Mahomes come postseason time. Joe Burrow is insane. He's on one of the most loaded rosters in the league. He has Jamar Chase. He has T. Higgins, who might end up leaving. Joe Mixon in the backfield. He's on a loaded offense, but he is a game changer. He's extremely clutch. He puts up super monstrous performances. I remember having him on fantasy a couple years ago. He had 3 games where he had over 80 points on fantasy. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often. So he's just undoubtedly one of the best. He starts the years off slow, but the Bengals, when they get into stride, they're almost impossible to stop. Without a doubt, he is an A tier quarterback, higher than Josh Allen. And of course, I have to say, he's been to a Super Bowl, unlike Allen or Lamar Jackson. So yeah, A tier quality for sure. We still have not reached S tier. He was close. Joe Burrow was close, but no, not yet. Next up, we have Deshaun Watson. Now, Watson's career has obviously been a little weird. He started off great with the Houston Texans, but then allegations off the field, poor coaching moves that left him without DeAndre Hopkins. He just took a little bit of a little bit of a roadblock. With the Browns, he's been okay. But he hasn't played a lot with the Browns, so we don't have that huge sample size with Cleveland just yet. From what I've seen throughout his career and where his potential is, to me, he is a B tier quarterback. He's not bad. He's definitely better than Fields and Kyler Murray throughout their career, but he is not even close to what. If he was still with the Texans, had none of those allegations, and still had DeAndre Hopkins, he's still A tier. There could be a question mark about him being S tier, but as it is, where his career is gone, he is B tier.
Now we got Dak Prescott.
Obviously, you know I'm a Cowboys fan, but Dak Prescott, he's a game-changing quarterback. I mean, he has the skill set to be a game changer. The weirdest thing about it, though, is that they treat Dak Prescott like a game manager. For the first 5 games of this last season, he was like a game manager. Afterwards, he started becoming a game changer, which he needed to be. And the Cowboys, they looked great offensively this year, and Dak Prescott looked great, but that postseason success is not there. But what takes him off of being an A tier quarterback, in my opinion, is the fact that when it comes to the postseason, he looks frazzled. Like what Stephen A has been saying, he looks scared. He looks like he's uncomfortable, which is just very alarming as a Cowboys fan. The best thing I can do is I think he's had a better career than Deshaun Watson, but he's with Watson on B tier. I can't put him any higher. I'm sorry. Just from what I've seen, he has not. He would be at A tier if he had better postseason success. But as it is, he is a B tier quarterback right now. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson with Denver Broncos has not been a great quarterback, but if we're looking at the entirety of his career, Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl champion. He is a game changing quarterback. I mean, from his pocket awareness to the fact that he can move around in the pocket almost seamlessly, he's impossible to sack. Back in the days, you could not sack Russell Wilson. He was the Fran Tarkenton of this era. You can also say he had great weapons. I didn't think he had super outstanding receivers. I mean, I'd say that DK Metcalf was his best receiver if we're, looking at it from a total perspective. Um, but from his career, he hasn't had, great luck in Denver. He's actually going to be a B tier because a lot of that help he got with the Seattle Seahawks defense is part of the reason why they also won a Super Bowl. And what he's been doing with Denver has just not looked great. He's for sure above Dak Prescott as far as a whole career analysis goes because he has the ring. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. So he definitely deserves to be at B tier. No lower. He's borderline on A. It's close, but I think because of his Denver Broncos performance, B is kind of where he's going to be. Next up, we have Jared Goff. To me, he's a game managing quarterback. I have been on game changer after game changer after game changer. We finally hit another game manager. He's a really good game manager. He's been to 1 Super Bowl. He's been to the NFC Championship game with both the LA Rams and the Detroit Lions. This year for the Lions, he was amazing. He was an outstanding quarterback. He used his weapons properly, and that system just worked for him perfectly. A lot of people tend to think Jared Goff was the lesser of the trade with the Matthew Stafford trade, but if we're being totally honest, yeah, as much as, oh man, I don't know. I thought I had the placement down. I wouldn't say he's necessarily better skill wise than Dak Prescott, but throughout career, he is higher than Prescott. I'm going to put him B tier, just above Dak Prescott, but lower than Russell Wilson if we're looking at a total analysis. Though, if he wins a Super Bowl with Detroit in these next few years, he might need to be bumped up to A tier. Next up, we have Jordan Love. Oh my God. I'm super hyped about this guy. He was on my fantasy team this year, and when he was playing, oh my God, he played great. He was consistently good week in and week out. Of course, that performance against the Cowboys was just legendary of him. He played amazing. 7th seed, beating a number 2 seed, and he almost beat San Francisco to get on to the NFC Championship game. But because we have a short sample of him, he's jumped to B tier behind Deshaun Watson. But this guy, he's climbing. There's some special things coming his way. I think this next season the Packers are going to be great. If they just know how to build around him, get him some great weapons, he's probably going to be amazing. So I think he was a great replacement for Aaron Rodgers, and I'm excited to see what Green Bay does. But yep, game changer, B tier game changer. It could definitely move higher. The sky's the limit for him right now. And then next up we have C.J. Stroud. So again, same echelons as Jordan Love, but I would actually have to put CJ Stroud a little bit higher. Stroud is undoubtedly a game-changing quarterback. His performance in the postseason was great despite that loss to Baltimore. If they know how to build around CJ Stroud, and I think D'Amico Ryans has a great plan ready to go, the Texans are going to be a tough out from here on out. So CJ Stroud to me, obviously I need a bigger sample size to pass Deshaun Watson, but I believe this is where he belongs, at B tier along with Jordan Love. Next up, we have Anthony Richardson. Now, when I went into the season, I thought Anthony Richardson was going to be the better of the 3 early draft quarterbacks. Obviously, he got injured, so he doesn't have a very large sample size. But after seeing those few games, I'm excited to see what he is going to do with the Indianapolis Colts. I can't put him in C tier. To me, he's an upper D tier because there were some games that were shaky. But he has every right to move up if this next season is a success, which it definitely could be. I'm excited to see what the Colts do because you can build around him for sure because he is very ready to become that superstar that I think he's going to be. Next up, we have Trevor Lawrence. Now, a little bit of a controversial take. I actually think he's just a game manager. When you look at the offense of the Jaguars, there's a good chance to say that he definitely should be considered a game manager. I think that if he wasn't fully injured throughout the year, he would have actually gotten the Jaguars to the postseason and not have to contend with the Texans. But I thought he had a down year. Trevor Lawrence, I want to put him at B tier. I think I'm going to have to go high C. He's a game managing high C quarterback. He had one good run with the playoffs, lost to the Chiefs 2 postseasons ago. But other than that, he hasn't been super impressive. I know he was great at Clemson, but this is a fair spot, I think. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he hasn't had a great sample size aside from one season. In the season that he was actually playing on a very terrible team, managed to get them to the playoffs. That was impressive, but it felt kind of like a Tebow run, if you catch what I'm saying. Next up, we have Patrick Mahomes.
Do we even need to question where this is going to be?
You want me to explain to you guys, or do we just agree? Okay, we mostly agree, but I'll just give an explanation. He's a 3 time Super Bowl champion. He is a game changing quarterback. You can even make the argument he's also a game managing quarterback because he's super smart with the football. He knows where to put in the right hands. He doesn't have all the best weapons. He only has Travis Kelce. Year in and year out, he's statistically one of the best quarterbacks. He's always getting his team to the AFC Championship. They are winning Super Bowls. There's a chance they can three-peat this next season. He is undoubtedly the best quarterback in the league, a game changing century type player. Like he's one of the best to play in this century. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for him because he's he's chasing Brady, which is super impressive. So he definitely has to be in S tier. Next up, we have Justin Herbert. Now, I like Herbert. That's my guy. The 2 times I ever won fantasy football was 2020 and 2023. Both years, I had Justin Herbert on my roster. It felt
So good.
but I would have to say that Justin Herbert is not an A tier quarterback because he doesn't have that postseason success. He only has one appearance, and they blew an entirely big lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But do I think he's better than Dak Prescott? Yes. Do I think he's better than Jared Goff? Yes. Do I think he is playing better than Russell Wilson throughout a career? No. I think this is the best place I can place him on the B tier. I know a lot of people are looking at the Broncos and are like, you're really putting Russell Wilson there? Again, full career. Russell Wilson has the success to be able to be there. But I do think Justin Herbert is about to become a threat, like a bigger threat, because they got Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers, they're going to be a tough out. Do not count the Chargers out. I'm going to say Justin Herbert deserves to be there for B tier. I know he has not had that playoff success, but from what I'm seeing, there's a chance he could jump into A tier soon. If he has an incredible season and the Chargers make a good run, there's a chance that A tier is in his future. Next up, we have Matthew Stafford. Now, again, we're talking about entire career. Stafford, when he was with the Lions, was an incredible quarterback. He's a game changer. I know he doesn't have the super athleticism and he kind of plays like a game managing quarterback, but trust me when I say Detroit Lions Matthew Stafford was the heart and soul of that team when Calvin Johnson had to go. Um, and so he's their Iron Man. Very tough player. He gets to the Rams. They win a Super Bowl, albeit being on a super loaded roster. But still, Stafford, throughout his career, has proven to me that I'm going to put him behind. I'm going to put him in front of Lamar Jackson. Stafford has proven to me that he is an A tier quarterback. I know he hasn't had recent success to say anything about it, but come on, he's been the heart and soul of Detroit, and he is now the heart of that entire LA Rams team. He deserves to be A tier as a game changer, of course. Next up, we got Jimmy G, the epitome of game managing quarterbacks. And don't get me wrong, he's a winner. He wins a lot of games. He didn't play great with the Raiders, but then he didn't play a lot. But when he was with the Niners, he played great, got them to the NFC Championship for a few years, and then got to the Super Bowl one time. But I don't know. I think he can be like Dak Prescott, a little frazzled. I'm going to say that Jimmy G is a high C tier, just above Trevor Lawrence. I know Trevor Lawrence is probably better, but again, full career. Next up, we have Tua Tagovailoa. And Tua, to me, and this is going to be a little bit of a tougher take, I think he's a game manager. You think about the weapons he has: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, even A-Chain. This is a tough way to say this, but I don't think he has the skill level to be a game changer. I think game managing is what he is meant to be. He has a good winning percentage, but I'm going to say he's a top C because he does run that offense extremely well. When they're on fire, they're on fire. But yeah, I give a lot of that to Tyreek Hill, a lot of that to Jalen Waddle. And then again, that's kind of how the life of a game manager goes. We'll get to Brock Purdy in a bit. Next up, we have Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a game managing quarterback, but not super impressive. Statistically, he does pretty well, and as a fantasy guy, he puts up good numbers, but I'm not impressed by Kirk Cousins. I'm going to say he's going to be above Tua for me, but he is a C tier quarterback throughout his entire career. He's been to a postseason just a few times. He doesn't have the postseason success, so he's going to be C tier in my opinion. Next up, we have Mac Jones. Game managing, poorly managed, poorly coached. He has just had it rough with New England. I know Bill Belichick's a great coach, but he did not put the right people around Mac Jones. Um, he's a game managing quarterback on an undervalued offense that's more keen on defense. So because of that, I can't put him in F, but he's there at D tier. He had the one good season where they did get to the postseason, only to get blown out by the Buffalo Bills. But yeah, D tier is where you're going to be at, Mac Jones. Sorry. Next up, we have Derek Carr. Not a lot of postseason experience. He is a game managing quarterback, and the Raiders have not used him very well. Even though they have put good targets around him, they've never given him a great defense. But he's had great targets over the years. Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, Devontae Adams. The list goes on. For me personally, I have to say though that he is above D tier, but he is a C tier quarterback. I'm going to put him behind Tua, but above Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, it's tough because I do love his grit. I do love his passion for the game, but he hasn't really shown a lot. May have not been given the greatest opportunities, but hey, that's what it is. It's just kind of how the league is. CT is where he's at. Next up, we have Daniel Jones. Now, I've been going scorched earth on the Dallas Cowboys, but I still stand by this, is saying that comparing Daniel Jones to Dak Prescott is immensely stupid. So I'm going to put Daniel Jones where I believe he belongs, which is higher than we'll put him higher than Mac Jones. But Daniel Jones is a D tier quarterback. I don't even know what's getting that Giants offense to the great spark that they have, but I would probably give it more to their defense. But I do not trust. You think I'm sitting here going to trust my boy Daniel Jones to do the job? No, no way. As a game managing quarterback, there is no shot I would give him that mark at all. Next up, we have Aaron Rodgers. And if you're wondering where Zach Wilson would be, he would be an F tier. But for Aaron Rodgers, obviously, we've seen a big sample size of his career. We know where he is. He will be right here in front of Josh Allen. He has the Super Bowl. He has the many MVPs. He's getting close to having a lot of the records. But I want to see that full season with the Jets. He can't be higher than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has more postseason success. And Joe Burrow, he's tough. I would rather take Joe Burrow over Aaron Rodgers. That's just me personally. But you can't go wrong with that one. Next up, we have Jalen Hurts. Really like Jalen Hurts. I don't think he gets as frazzled in the postseason as a lot of players try to say he does, or a lot of fans as well. Players, yeah, well, we can talk about some of the Cowboy players. I'd say that, I'm going to make Cowboy fans mad. I'm going to put Jalen Hurts at A tier. I really would trust him more than Dak Prescott in the postseason. I mean, he's already shown the postseason success, and he nearly went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, almost beat him. So I have to trust that. I haven't seen Dak Prescott in that position. So I'm going to put Jalen Hurts at the A tier spot. And yes, he is a game changer. That offense is ran beautifully. When it's ran the right way, it's ran beautifully. When it's not, it looks like a train wreck. But again, even game-changing quarterbacks have their own systems. Next up, we have Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I got pretty harsh there because the Steelers do have positive records, and they did make the postseason, but Kenny Pickett's not the reason. Kenny Pickett is a turnover machine compared to being a scoring machine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure throughout his two careers, I can go fact check this right now, but I'm going to guess this off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure throughout his career, he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. And I just don't trust it because they have great weapons. Deontay Johnson, Fryermuth, George Pickens, Najee Harris. I mean, the list goes on. So they have a good offense, but Kenny Pickett, he doesn't run it well. I mean, you can put any quarterback back there; it'll be fine. But I just don't think Kenny Pickett is a great leading quarterback for that Steelers offense. So he's an F tier. I mean, his stats are just awful. Next up, we have Geno Smith. Now, if we went through an entire career and the Seahawks didn't exist, he'd be F tier. But because he's started having success with the Seahawks, I'm going to put him just above Kyler Murray because I've seen better success with him on the Seahawks than I've seen Kyler Murray with his success on the Arizona Cardinals. But he is a game changing quarterback based on his skill set, and he got the right weapons around him. So if he's healthy and the Seahawks are fully healthy, they should be a postseason threat. If we're going through an entire career, this is where they would be. Geno Smith would be a C tier quarterback. Next up, we have Brock Purdy, the game managing quarterback of the year. I can't argue with going to the Super Bowl. I don't care how many great players you have on your roster. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk. He has an incredible offense behind him. But you can't also take away from the fact that he has ran that offense like a well-oiled machine. Brock Purdy, to me, is right there. Behind Josh Allen, in front of Matthew Stafford, because he got that postseason success. He doesn't have the Super Bowl, but you know the 49ers, if they continue to use him correctly, have that offense ready to go, there's no question that he can win a Super Bowl with the Niners. It's going to take a lot. It's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes. And if it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow. It's going to be tough to beat Joe Burrow. But I think he can do it. Next up, we have Baker Mayfield. To me, Mayfield has a great skill set, but I still have to say he is a game managing quarterback. But with his years, you got the Cleveland Browns. He took them to the postseason. He took the Buccaneers to the postseason just now. He had a second where he was swindling down to C or lower C, high D. But where he stands right now, I'm going to have to honestly put him over Derek Carr. He does have some postseason success with the win over the Eagles. So I like what he's been able to do in his career. He's kind of had a resurgence, and I hope he continues that resurgence with the Buccaneers. Next up, we have Will Levis. I'm going to say, or Levis, Levis. I'm going to say Will Levis. Will Levis is probably, he doesn't have a huge sample size, but I've been pretty impressed with how he's played. I'm going to put him at a very low D tier. He's not at F tier. I think he would be a step up from Kenny Pickett. Will Levis he can put up some pretty good stats. I think he's a game managing quarterback. He hasn't shown game changing qualities, but I do think that if the Titans build around him, that the Titans could show some success, but I don't think Derrick Henry is going to stay, so there's that too. And then lastly, Sam Howell. I had a lot of faith in Sam Howell being a big name quarterback. I'm not putting him at F tier. I will put him just a step above Will Levis because he was throwing for a bunch of yards, but he also has a lot of interceptions too. So he hasn't been a great game managing quarterback. But I have to say, I can't put him in F because I have seen sparks. I have not seen sparks from Kenny Pickett. So yeah, you got my list. So maybe I just took away from my argument for a little bit because I do see a lot more game changing quarterbacks towards the top of the list and more game managing quarterbacks at the bottom of the list. But I do think there are some gems in the game managing section like Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, and a little bit of Kirk Cousins, Tua, and Baker Mayfield. But I do think that, yeah, you do have an argument to make. The game-changing quarterback is something that most teams would rather have, especially with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I mean, they're amazing. S tier is reserved for Patrick Mahomes, undoubtedly three-time Super Bowl champion. He's going to be up there. And then A tier is reserved for Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. B tier is reserved for Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, even though Herbert can definitely move up to A with a good season. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, C.J. Stroud, and Jordan Love. C tier has Kirk Cousins, Tua Tagovailoa, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Geno Smith, and Kyler Murray. D tier has Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Desmond Ritter, Sam Howell, and Will Levis. And then F tier is Kenny Pickett and Bryce Young. So, yep, that's my tier list for the video. Let's go to the outro. And that'll be it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Go follow me on all my social medias. Tell me what you think, what tier list you would use. I'll leave the tier list down in the description below. And yeah, go follow me on all my social medias. And I send TikToks for questions. You don't have to send me sports-related questions. You can send me whatever question. I just don't want anything controversial. If you want to send me sports questions, that's cool. If you want to send me non-sports questions, that's cool too. Just send some questions. They're opinionated for the most part, so I'll answer opinionated, obviously. But yeah, don't be afraid to send questions. I would love to read them at the end of episodes. Anyways, that'll do it for me. So I hope you have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.